Good morning. We will begin our service with the ringing of the temple bell. At this time, please silence your cell phones and listen quietly as the sounding of the concho is an invitation to settle our hearts and minds as we prepare to receive the Dharma. Thank you.
Namanam, 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 namanam.
Once again, good morning. Welcome to a special service where we will be celebrating a special birthday. Who knows whose birthday it is today? Anyone? Maki? Him too. Today is the birthday of my wife Lynn. She's actually born on the 19th. So, so thank you, Reverend Blayne, who said, why don't we just celebrate Lynn's birthday this Sunday? And, I thought it was a great idea. And he said, well, we could, since you're all coming, just kind of throw in Shinran too, right? So, Shinran was born on May 11, 1173. He would have been 851 years old. My wife Lynn is less than that.
Good answer.
Okay, back to our regular programming. Welcome to our annual Gotan-E Service, sponsored by the Konohonganji Shinwa Kai. This service celebrates the birth of Shinran Shonin, which, as mentioned earlier, occurred on May 21st, 1173. Shinran was the founder of Shin Buddhism. As Reverend Blayne explains, his life and teachings represent one of the most significant developments in the history of Buddhism. Before Shinran, only the privileged and educated received spiritual instruction. Shinran taught that everyone was equally embraced by the Buddha's infinite light and compassion, and the truth of the Dharma and Shinjin awakening are accessible to everyone without discrimination. I am Darren and will serve as your MC. Assisting at the temple with technical support are Alan Matsumoto, Stephen Kaneko, and the birthday girl Lynn. Corinne Chong is our organist. We will begin the service with the chanting of the Sanbujo, or 3 respectful callings, which invites Amida Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, and all Buddhas of the 10 directions to join us at this service. It symbolizes our willingness to open our hearts and minds to receive the Dharma. The scattering of paper flower petals called keha will accompany the chanting of Sanbujo led by Reverend Blayne. Please join in the chanting when indicated. Sanbujo can be found on page 9 of the Red Service Book. Again, that's page 9 of the Red Service Book. In honor of Shinran Shonin, Reverend Blayne will perform a special ritual called the Toraiban and Goraiban ceremony. In the Toraiban ceremony, the priest ascends the ritual platform. Please sit quietly and observe with a feeling of oneness as Reverend Blayne holds the handled incense burner and performs 3 kneeling bows, ascends the Raiban, anoints his robes and vestments with powdered incense, and then offers incense to Amida Buddha. Reverend Blayne will then ring the kei and chant the Jusan, or Gatha of Praise, written by Shinran Shonin, followed by an aspiration, after which he will ring the kei to lead us in the chanting of the sutra Shoshinge, followed by Nembutsu and Echo. Written by Shinran, the beautiful verses of Shoshinge, or Hymn of True Entrusting, gives us the history and meaning of Amida Buddha's compassionate vow, which unconditionally embraces and enlightens all beings. It expresses Shinran's profound gratitude to the Buddha and to the 7 masters of the Pure Land tradition, The Shoshinge will be chanted in the Junirai style and can be found on the handout.
大所有しめうでん一条具行極戦即心遠入死言言自母小三上言自人知心We gather this morning as friends in the Dharma, as fellow travelers along the journey of life. On this observance of Gotan-E, we celebrate the birth of Shinran Shonin, who shared with us the path of universal liberation through the Nembutsu. We reflect on Shinran's words from the Kyogyo Shinsho. How joyous I am, Gutoku Shinran, disciple of Shakyamuni. Rare is it to come upon the sacred scriptures from the westward land of India and the commentaries of the masters of China and Japan, but now I have been able to encounter them. Rare is it to hear them, but already I have been able to hear. Reverently entrusting myself to the teaching, practice, and realization that are the true essence of the Pure Land Way, I am especially aware of the profundity of the Tathagata's benevolence. With gratitude, we adorn the altar with offerings as we express our deepest appreciation and indebtedness to Shinran and the Pure Land Masters for sharing with us this profound teaching. May we always take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows us the way in this life, the Dharma, the way of understanding and love, and the Sangha, the community that lives in harmony and awareness. Following the great Nembutsu path together, with reverence, I remain. 唯説弥陀本願会五辱悪事群上会往生如来如実言納発一年期愛心不断煩悩徳涅槃凡上逆法再永入入手死入界一味摂取信仰上昇後意の水波無明暗頓内心相死運無上不真実真真天異尿二個不運無運無死下妙無暗薬真見教大教義即を超絶語悪種一切善悪本部人門心如来偶然願仏言五大諸下者善人妙分大理下弥陀仏本願念仏邪見教魔悪主上信行十字真理難難中死難無可死インド祭天使論下主家自治義士こそ現代諸国聖書意妙如来本世よき釈迦如来行がせ一種五妙難天寺流十大自主とせ質の財波運無権先絶大乗無情報召喚議事小安ら賢治難行六六信行異行指導ら億年弥陀仏本願次年即時入筆上唯の上昇如来語大大悲偶然音天神菩薩増論説奇妙無下語如来永主たら見真実高専の超大誓願こういう本願力へこ移動群上昇維新記入愚読大崩壊筆逆入大英種種徳子蓮華造世界即昇信用法精進有望の人間人数入所自音自用へ本師頓乱両天使上皇乱小菩薩来三蔵ルシ十上教凡上専業気楽法天神菩薩論主下報道因果見世願方言猫ゆたり少女支援有信心惑前本部信心没承知初期即涅槃一時無量光明道小宇宙上回復家同社下小道難所唯妙浄土が通入万全自力 変言種円満独語感染症三部三神経音言増末放滅動非因一生増悪地偶税死安如外小名が全道独名部所意公愛上三両逆は公明明後家二年介入本願第一外行者小樹今後心狂気一年相互用意大と逆三人即所所市場ら原神合化一大教変気安養化二歳先祖主神反先人法家二度小弁流極重悪人有所物我薬剤非摂取中煩悩証言水不見大非無見上昇が本資言具名部行連民全幕本部人新宗教書講演主戦弱本願具惑性現来生じ伝伝下下賃議上意所し即入弱上無意だ一新人意の入愚教大事修士と上祭無変極上は道俗自主有能心有因果心し公創世ナマナムナマナムナマナムナマナムナマナムナマナム観にしぐどく平等正祭道本もないしおうじょうあんあこ
In the Go-Raiban ceremony, the priest descends from the ritual platform. Reverend Blayne will offer incense, return the ritual implements, descend from the Raiban, and perform one kneeling bow. Please, please join your hands in Gasho and let us recite the Nembutsu together with Reverend Blayne.
Namandab, 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 namandab.
We will now have the offering of incense. We invite all Sangha members in attendance to please come up and offer incense if you wish, starting with the front rows and moving towards the back. Please use both incense burners. Please rise for the Gatha Ondoku-san Gratefulness, which can be found on the handouts or on the screen. Betty is not here to lead us today, so please sing loudly as best you can, or I'm going to get scolding when she reviews the video, so please help me out. So Ondoku-san. You may be seated. Reverend Blayne will now read a selection from the Gobonsho, which is a collection of letters written by Renyo Shonin, the 8th spiritual leader of Honganji over 500 years ago. These letters summarize and clarify the essence of Shinran's teachings. Reverend Blayne will read the Gobunsho Shoshin Ichiryu no Sho, or the tradition of Shinran Shonin, in the traditional Japanese and in English, to be followed by his Dharma message.
Shonin ichiru no gokange no omomuki wa shinjen no motte honto serare soro. そのゆえはもろもろの造業を投げ捨てて一心に皆に奇妙すれば不可思議の眼力として仏の方より往生は事情をせしめたもそのくらいを一年簿記入賞上始終とも釈しその上の称名念仏如来我が往生を定めたまいしご恩法人の念仏と心べきなりあなかしこあなかしこ What is taught in the tradition of Shinran Shonin is that the entrusting heart is essential. For when we abandon various practices and take refuge in Amida with singleness of heart, our birth in the Pure Land is settled by the Buddha through the inconceivable vow power. The state we thus attain is described as, with awakening of a single thought of entrusting, we join those who are in the stage of the truly settled. Recitation of the Nembutsu thereafter should be understood to be the Nembutsu as an expression of gratitude for the Tathagata's benevolence for settling our birth in the Pure Land. Humbly and respectfully. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namman Dabutsu, Namman Dabutsu, Namman Dabutsu. So, good morning, everybody, and happy Gotan-E on this wet, rainy morning. We finally got the weather, yeah? So, Shinran Shonin was a revolutionary thinker who shared with us this path of universal liberation of spiritual freedom. Born on May 21st, 1173, as Darren mentioned, he is 851 years old. And he is revered as a great teacher. But I also revere him and recognize him as a remarkable human being who lived a life of critical self-reflection and spiritual honesty, who, called himself Gutoku, which means foolish, stubble-haired ignoramus, right? How many of us could call ourselves stupid, basically, right? And he called himself this. And I've always marveled at his humility and his self-awareness and how truly relatable he is. Shinran offers a lament in one of his writings. He says, the shinjin of the wise is such that they are inwardly wise, outwardly foolish. The heart of Gotoku is such that I am inwardly foolish, outwardly wise. Right? How many of us, we all do this, put on a good face, right? But on the inside, we're like, And so I think Shinran, right, just kind of calls this out, right? And for the first time, like, as a religious leader, right, I'm like thinking, wow, how refreshing, right? That he actually understands where I'm coming from, right? That we are all just imperfect human beings struggling to get by, and yet, we are always embraced and held in the Buddha's compassionate arms. And so, in this statement that he shares, right, we can see his spiritual maturity, which is a lesson for us to strive to live with that same self-awareness, even just a little bit, right? And at the heart of the Nembutsu path is an acceptance of our full humanness as imperfect beings, and the cultivation of gratitude for the dynamic activity of wisdom and compassion which sustains our lives and never forsakes us. And it was the realization of his own limitations as a human being was how Shinran was able to perceive the working of Amida Buddha, perceive the working of compassion and wisdom in his life. And so it is this dual realization, right, of our limited nature, and yet, but because of our limited nature, we are embraced, right? We're loved for exactly who we are, right? But it doesn't mean that we stay the same, right, throughout our lives, right? That religious and spiritual transformation occurs naturally in our lives when we awaken to this working of wisdom and compassion. And slowly by slowly, as Shinran talks about, as ice melts into the water of enlightenment, right? Our lives are transformed too. Slowly by slowly, drip by drip, drop by drop. And so the Nembutsu, right, in our tradition is the sound of the universe calling us home to ourselves, encouraging us to wake up to our lives, right? And reminding us that we are always living in oneness with that which is true and real, with Amida Buddha, right? And so Shinran teaches us how to truly live in this world of samsara, this world of suffering and delusion. And Shinran declares in one of his writings that hell is decidedly my abode, whatever I do, right? And so he was saying for himself that, I just can't do it, right? No matter what I try, how perfect I think I am, I'm really not. But that's okay. And so my natural state is in a state of a hellish existence because I am creating my own hell, right, for myself. And so this brutally honest assessment of his life and the human condition is a hallmark of Shinran's thought, right? So he posits awakening, right, the world of Buddha, as a twofold awareness of our own limitations and the Buddha's perfection, together as one in Namo Amida Butsu, together as one when we gasho, right? And so Shinran's realization of his true inner self, which he perceived to be the exact opposite of an enlightened being, right? How many of us think we're enlightened, right? That we're, maybe better than maybe other people, yeah? Right, but Shinran, right, in his realization of himself, right, he realizes that he was so far removed and away from being an enlightened being, right, that he did not see the nature of a Buddha within himself. But because of that realization is when the awakening of true compassion bloomed in his life, right? That at his lowest moment, he was held and sustained and supported, right? And realized that he was always within the care of the Buddha. In one of his other writings, he offers a stark description of human nature. He says, a foolish being, a bombu, each of us is by nature possessed of blind passions. So you must recognize yourself as a being of karmic evil, right? And evil in the Buddhist sense, right, is not like in other, maybe in Judeo-Christian senses. Evil means whatever separates us from the working of enlightenment, right? Of realizing our true nature, right? And so the karmic evil, right? Our attachments, our burdens, our passions, these are the things that are holding us back from realizing our true self, right? And so what we realize is Shinran's spirituality, his deep sense of understanding human nature and our lives is based on this working of the primal vow of Amida's boundless compassion, which is far beyond his limited self, beyond our limited control, right? And so The late Buddhist scholar Dr. Taitetsu Ono once described the Pure Land path as taking place by descending into the valley, into the shadow of the mountains. And he believed that it is in the valley and the shadows where our spirituality flourishes, right? In the everyday toil of our lives, right? The good, the bad, the ugly, everything that we're going through, that is where the working of enlightenment embraces us and sustains us and holds us. And so Shinran's understanding of compassion, of radical compassion in his life, right? That makes no conditions upon him, upon each of us, that we are loved and embraced just as we are, right? But it is in that light of the Buddha where he comes to understand his own imperfections, his own limitations, his own just human nature, right? As a mirror, the teachings are a mirror to us to help us see ourselves, right? And to help see our world clearly, right? And so it is this dynamic relationship between an individual, myself, and Amida, which is the heart of this path, which, according to the late professor Takamado Shigaraki, is that the Buddha's compassion does not exist apart from our realization of our own defiled passions and karmic sins. Great compassion exists when it takes in our karmic sins, right? And so this acknowledgement and acceptance of our imperfections is the heart of Shin Buddhism, which opens up the possibility for spiritual transformation and the realization of our own Buddha nature. Shinran saw himself as a Ichantika. And in Buddhist tradition, an Ichantika was a term for a hopeless one who was bound by their blind passions and had no hope of liberation. And he saw himself as a person like this. Wow, how remarkable for an individual to see themselves in such a way and yet produce such rich, amazing insight into human nature, into the world of spirituality, right? That we are the recipients of 800 years later. In his book, Discovering Buddhism in Everyday Life, Reverend Marvin Harada, the current bishop of the Buddhist Churches of America, shares an appreciation for Shinran's spiritual insight. He says, Shinran Shonin is amazing because his writings reflect how he has seen deep into his spiritual self. In looking deep into his spiritual self, he is shown or sees his ego self. Through the light of the Dharma, he sees his ego self. Beyond the clever defense mechanisms, beyond the rationalizations that the ego normally uses to protect itself, like a mirror that reflects, Shinran shows how his true self, his enlightened self, reflects and illuminates his heart and mind and shows him his true self. Thus, he is able to not only see but confess his inner and outer self. Normally, we only see that which that we show the world, right? Our outer sincere self. But Shinran sees his inner deceitful self, self-centered, foolish, insincere self. That is his enlightenment, right? To see the heart of himself. The inner ego, the self that is hard to see. Shinran is able to see only because he has that mirror of Amida Buddha, the mirror of the Dharma in his life that illuminates himself. So Shinran's path is one of seeing oneself with both candor and compassion, right? We have to be brutally honest with ourselves, right? But we also have to have compassion for ourselves because the Buddha has compassion for us. Shinjin, right, this interesting heart and mind, is a growing experience nurtured in the soil of our lives. I am continually being made aware of my limited and imperfect self each and every day, which is embraced by Mida's compassion through the joys and sorrows of life. Like when I attended to my grandmother as she neared her birth in the Pure Land at the remarkable age of 100. Upon receiving the call from my father, letting me know of her declining condition, I booked the next flight home to Hilo. And as I sat with her as a grandson and as a minister, I naturally wished for more time. Right? We all do. Even though intellectually I knew, right, the truth of impermanence and the teaching of impermanence, but my attachments, my blind passions, just as Shinran realized about himself, are difficult to overcome, even in the face of this inescapable truth. And so in the warm, sunlit room that she had shared with my grandfather for so many years, I sat holding her gentle hand and realized how selfish I was being and how powerless I truly was. I was, as much as I wanted her to stay, just a little bit longer. She would soon be with my grandfather, becoming one with limitless life itself. And so as my quiet nembutsu matched the rhythm of her shallow breathing, I felt Amida's compassionate embrace as I slowly began to let her and my ego go. My shadow, right, was taken in and transformed by the inconceivable light of wisdom and compassion in the immediate present, in that moment. And in that moment, my grandmother and I were held within Amida's vow that was made for us alone, just as Shinran exclaimed in the Tanisho. When I consider deeply the vow of Amida, which arose from 5 kalpas of profound thought, I realized that it was entirely for the sake of myself alone. We are truly the object of the Buddha's boundless compassion. It is within the Buddha's nature to liberate, to transform, and to heal. This is the dynamic working of Amida's vow to grasp, never to abandon. This is the activity of wisdom unfolding as compassion, which transforms our brokenness into wholeness. And in another one of his writings, Shinran describes this spiritual transformation, which is made possible by Amida's compassion. When we entrust ourselves to the Tathagata's primal vow, we who are like bits of tile and pebbles are turned into gold. When we begin to see ourselves in this way, our lives are nurtured, and we become more fully aware of our true humanness, our true own Buddha nature. How profoundly grateful we are for Shinran for sharing the teaching of Amida's compassionate vow, which offers us a life of radical hope, spiritual honesty, and a dynamic transformation through the Nembutsu, enabling us to become our fuller selves in our present lives. And so please join me in Gasho to recite Amida's name with profound gratitude, abiding joy, and a heart-centered awareness for the miracle of living. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu. Thank you, everybody.
For your message. That image of the ice cube melting into the sea of enlightenment. Man, I'm thinking my ice cube is pretty big. I got to turn up the heater. Long way to go. If you have the handout, Our Pledge, I'll now lead you in the unison reading of Our Pledge. Words can be found on the handouts or on the screen. So if you would please recite the words together with me. Reaching out to others, I will share a smile and gentle words, just like the Buddha who always calls out with aloha. Breaking away from my greed, anger, and ignorance, I will try to live in peace and harmony, just like the Buddha who shares tranquility and kindness with all. Moving forward from self-centeredness, I will share a life of joy and sorrow with others, just like the Buddha whose caring heart always embraces us. Realizing that I live because of others, I will strive to live life to the fullest with an attitude of gratitude, just like the Buddha who promises to embrace us all. Namo Amida Butsu. Okay, thank you, everyone. We will now have the offertory presentation by Dr. John Sue, Mahalo everyone for your generosity. Please rise as we will conclude this Gotan-E service with the singing of the Gatha Nembutsu.
Namandab, 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 namandab.
Please be seated. Here are some announcements. Upcoming schedule of services and events. First, here's an important reminder. There will be no service next Sunday, May 26th, so please mark your calendar. Next Sunday, May 26th, no service. Sunday, June 2nd, we will observe a military remembrance service to honor those in the Kono community who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in service for our country. The 10 a.m. service will be sponsored by the Boy Scouts Troop 59. Sunday, June 9th, we will celebrate Father's Day at the 10 a.m. service. Guest speaker will be Dr. Warren Tamamoto, Hawaii Kyodan President. Saturday, June 15th, please join us at the exciting Obon Festival, which is a kickoff to the 2024 Obon season. The event will be held at the Maka'eo Pavilion at the Old Airport from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. There'll be food trucks, craft booths, games for the kids, taiko performances, and of course, Bon Odori dancing. So come down and have a great time. There will be no service on June 16th. Thank you, Reverend, because many of us will be recovering from the Obon Festival the night before. Regular Dharma family services will be held on Sundays, June 23 and June 30th. Reminders, please be sure to open and read and click on the attachments and interesting links that are included in Reverend Blayne's weekly Friday update. Kono Honganji will be also hosting the Dharma-Centered Living 101 hands-on workshop with Ms. D. Trinidad Hunt. Registration was requested by May 11th, but I'm sure you can still register. This will be a first of a series of workshops designed to empower parents, grandparents, educators, anyone and everyone with tools and strategies to share life lessons and skills based on Shin Buddhist values. Trinidad Hunt is an amazing and dynamic international trainer, author, and public speaker, and the granddaughter of Reverend Dorothy Hunt, the author of The Golden Chain of Love. So if you have any questions, you can see me or see Reverend Blayne. So please, if you can, register and attend this amazing hands-on workshop. Please check out the puzzle exchange in the library if you are a puzzle enthusiast. Book lovers, you are welcome to join the Konohonganji online book club. Please register online with Reverend Blayne by Monday, May 27th. See Reverend Blayne's email for more information. And then please consider renewing or becoming a sustaining member of Konohonganji for 2024. An invitation letter and pledge form are attached to Reverend Blayne's email. Mahalo. Are there any other announcements? Okay, if not, those of you on Zoom, you may leave at any time. Thank you everyone for joining us. Please stay healthy and safe, and we hope to see you at future services. Those of you here in person, refreshments will be served in the social hall. Mahalo to Lynn Katayama and Lisa Siriaco, and any others who had brought food and goodies for today's refreshments. Again, for those of you here in person, please stay for refreshments and help us celebrate Shinran's birthday. Oh, Lynn's birthday too. Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, also, just a big shout out and mahalo to Darren and Alan and Lynn, and I think Stephen helped, I think, with the omigaki, the polishing of the altar adornments. So thank you for doing a great job. So.
What is that?
Do you have a cake for Lynn?
We're taking out for dinner, and I think we'll have leftover from today's refreshments. Oh, that was Nancy's job. That was Nancy's job.